Ignition sequence start. 3, 2, 1.
Range is hot. Lock and load. It's time for the Gun Rack with your hosts, Joey and Drew.
Hello and welcome to the Gun Rack, Sonoran Desert Institute School of Firearms Technology's official podcast. I'm Drew Poplin, and this is going to be a bit of a quick hitter of an episode today. Joey is out this week. A lot of cool things going on with him. He started a really cool job. It's a really cool place to work. And the show he's directing, you might remember us referring to it a couple of weeks ago. He's directing Shakespeare's Comedy of Errors. This is opening weekend for him. Actually, I believe last night was opening night, last night, Thursday. So I know how much work he and the cast have probably put into that production. And if I'm not mistaken, it is Joey's directorial debut. So we at the Gun Rack want to send him and the cast a hearty break a leg. As for Gun Rack stuff, it's going to be a shorter episode. For many of you guys, it might be redundant, but I just want to go over 4 different ways that you can use Memorial Day for its intended purpose, and that's to honor those who have made the ultimate sacrifice. So the first way is to educate yourself and others about Memorial Day. Now, if you are listening to the podcast and maybe you're not exactly aware of what Memorial Day is, maybe you're wondering what its purpose is. Or maybe you know of Memorial Day and Veterans Day, have a sort of vague understanding. But, just to clear it up, one Memorial Day happens the last Monday of May, and Veterans Day happens the 11th of November. And this is a pretty important distinction to make. Ultimately, I feel like Memorial Day is a little bit more somber than Veterans Day. Veterans Day, it honors all past and present members who have honorably served in the defense of our nation. Memorial Day specifically is to commemorate all those who have died fighting in any armed conflict. So one, I think it's important to make sure you're aware of what the distinction is between those two. I think once you get that solid understanding of why Memorial Day is incredibly important, it's probably one of the most important holidays that we observe, then, do your part to educate other people that may not be aware. And if you have children, maybe try to explain to them why this day is important. So that's number one, to educate yourself and others. Number 2, you could participate in Memorial Day traditions. Over the years, there's a lot of different traditions that have come to be associated with Memorial Day. One of the biggest ones is the National Memorial Day Parade. That's happening in Washington, D.C. It's taking place 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. on Memorial Day. If you don't want to fly to DC, a lot of towns across the country end up doing their own separate events, maybe a social or like a, their own little parade. So it would help to check your local newspaper, maybe your local Facebook group, see what's going on in your area. Now, again, Memorial Day is a pretty somber occasion, so perhaps maybe more of a fitting way, in my opinion, would be to visit your local veteran cemetery. There are a bunch of national cemeteries across the United States, a bunch of veteran cemeteries. And unfortunately, a lot of these graves being older, some have fallen into states of disrepair, or a lot of people that remember those who died, they themselves have passed away. So there's going to be a lot of graves, more than likely, that are not decorated. It might be nice to find your local veteran cemetery, decorate some of those tombstones. Obviously, you don't want to go, super ostentatious or anything like that. But, if there's weeds or anything like that, maybe try to clean that up. That was number 2. Now we're on to number 3. And number 3 is get creative. The last few years, I've noticed a lot of cities have started doing Memorial Day races. And I think that's a great way to get out and be active and to raise awareness. If running isn't your thing, or if your local area isn't necessarily doing anything, try to get creative. Try to think about your community and what ways would be best to take part in Memorial Day. I mean, hey, who knows? If it's a good idea, maybe your idea will serve as inspiration for other communities to, do the same thing. And number 4, there's a couple different acts of remembrance. Every Memorial Day, I also see it on Veterans Day. But normally, if you go around town, you'll see people wearing red poppies on Memorial Day. Since World War One, the red poppy has become a symbol of remembrance, a pretty universal one. Many charities that assist veterans, they also end up selling, little red poppies. So, if you want to participate on, I guess, like a financial level, that might not be a bad idea. Plus, wearing your red poppy raises awareness. And this one's on a national level. And this is one that I wasn't necessarily aware of, not really until last year, but every Memorial Day at 3 p.m. local time. So, 3 p.m. wherever your time zone is, there's a national moment of remembrance. Really kind of think of it as a moment of silence, a moment of contemplation. And this is one that, it takes hardly any time at all. It's a good way to kind of refocus on your mind on the purpose of Memorial Day. And I think giving up a minute of your time around 3 o'clock on Monday, I think it's a great way to honor that sacrifice. And I said there's 4 ways. Honestly, I'd say this was like honorary number 5. And I'm reminded of the words of JFK. He says, as we express our gratitude, we must never forget that the highest appreciation is not to utter words, but to live by them. Ultimately, whether you do something on Memorial Day or not, I believe that our gratitude should be extended beyond the confines of the holiday. You may be saying, well, if this is to commemorate and honor those who died, how do you go about that? Well, you have to think in almost every instance of the soldier passing away in the line of duty, they have families back home. And for these families, every day is a day of remembrance. The USO actually has a name for these families. They're called Gold Star families. I think that would be a fantastic way if you're interested at all in you're trying to assist these families. There's a couple different ways that you can help support these families. And this list comes from goldstarfamilyregistry.com. So here's what they have listed. And some of these are more applicable on Memorial Day than others, but I'm just going to read out the whole list. So obviously the USO, I believe they were the ones that came up with the term Gold Star families. They do some initiatives. The Fallen and Wounded Soldier Fund. Interestingly enough, that's usually just for Michigan-based soldiers. There's the Honor Flight, honorflight.org. They fly veterans to Washington, D.C. to visit the different war memorials. There's the Patriot Guard Riders. There's TAPS, which is Tragedy Assistance Program for Survivors. It's an organization that provides 24/7 tragedy assistance for anyone who has suffered the loss of a military loved one, as well as hosting survivor seminars and good grief camps to assist families in the grieving process. There's the American Widow Project, Society of Military Widows, Special Ops Survivors, a bunch of different initiatives that are in place to help some of these families. So if you want to learn more, go to goldstarfamilyregistry.com/resources. And additionally, even though Memorial Day is a day to commemorate the fallen, I think a great way to do that is to help our veterans that did make it back home, many of whom are living in need of financial, emotional, and medical care. And as with the Gold Star families, there are a bunch of military and veteran nonprofits. In fact, I think there's more than 45,000, which that's wild. However, I also understand there's like a little bit of a hesitation with donating to charities that you don't really know much about. Veteransadvantage.com, they've compiled a list of organizations that they feel are legitimate and trustworthy, which is awesome. I'm glad someone's doing it. So this is their recommendations. They have the Fisher House Foundation. It's a national NPO established to provide support for the Fisher House program that provides free housing and a home away from home for families of patients receiving medical care at major military and VA medical centers. There's Hope for the Warriors. I already mentioned TAPS. Given Hour works to match military and veterans struggling with mental health and well-being with volunteer health programs that can help them recover. There's the Vietnam Veterans of America, the USO, the Semper Fi Fund. It provides emergency financial assistance to post 9/11 vets who are wounded, critically ill, or injured during their service. There's the Bob Woodruff Family Foundation, Intrepid Foundations and Museum, Children of Fallen Patriots Foundation, Operation Gratitude, Operation Care and Comfort. It's not listed here, but I made mention of it. I know that there's the Gary Sinise Foundation. I'm assuming that's above board, but with all these, try to do your research, try to figure out where the money's going. It's a shame. It's such a shame how many of these nonprofits that are built end up just taking advantage of people's kindness. Some nasty stuff. But yeah, so I would definitely want to encourage you guys this weekend, try to participate in one of these things. I know I'm probably going to be doing the National Moment of Awareness. I might watch the Memorial Day Parade, especially if you have people in your life that you know are veterans or family of veterans. It might not be a bad idea to reach out and try to see what you can do to help, even if that's inviting them to your Memorial Day cookout or something. We've mentioned it many a times, but we definitely want to reiterate our sincere gratitude to all those who have served and, to those who have sacrificed everything. We are incredibly grateful, and that's a debt that I don't know how we can pay back, but we can certainly try our best. And with that being said, that has been this episode of the Gun Rack. Again, a bit of a shorter episode today. We certainly want to wish everyone a safe Memorial Day weekend. Again, break a leg to Joey and his cast of Comedy of Errors. And until next time, have fun, stay safe, and we will see you at the range.
Sonoran Desert Institute is an online school accredited by the DEAC. It is headquartered at 1555 West University Drive in Tempe, Arizona. For more information about how you can craft your firearms future, visit sdi.edu.